Apple's Watch Ultra might be their most extreme endurance watch, but it comes with an Ultra price tag of 1,300 Aussie dollars or 800 US. I paid just under 50 US dollars for this clone. The Chinese H10 Ultra watch is supposed to be a 1-to-1 copy of the Apple Watch Ultra. It's packaged in a box that's strikingly similar to Apple's. Usually clones are poorly made, especially the cheap ones like this, but it looks like this one might be better than the others I've seen. In fact, there isn't many grammar issues with the writing on the box. The only things of note is that the product is apparently copyrighted to the whole United States, and it says not to use the product. It even states not to disassemble the device. I for one won't be listening to that. A downside often overlooked by these clones is that while I purchased it as a clone, it could be sold to someone for a hefty price who thinks it's the real deal. So always look at the product to make sure you're getting what you're paying for. This box is wrapped in plastic, something Apple stopped doing in 2020. Yet another small distinguishable difference from the original. Inside you'll find a fold-out pamphlet, a charger and band, all of which look very similar to the real watch. Lastly inside is the watch itself. The pamphlet outlines the product's apparent hardware specifications and connectivity, supporting Android 5 and later, and iOS 8 and newer. That's far better support than even the real watch offers, which in contrast is only compatible with the newest iOS version. It's clear most of this was stolen from Apple, including some of the product photos and graphics. It even mentions Siri. Removing the protective film will allow us to get a better look at the watch itself. With the watch, I did purchase the optional Alpine Loop to complete the Apple Watch Ultra look. Powering it up, we can see they've ripped off Apple's Hello text and are now using it as the boot screen. Even when powered on, it really does look like an Apple Watch. The OS has been meticulously copied, even down to some of the animations. The casing of the watch is indeed plastic, but from a glance it does look like aluminium. It's a bit smaller than the real watch, measuring in at 45mm compared to the giant 49mm of the real watch. The illusion does however fall apart when you look at the bottom. The plastic base with fake screws is a dead giveaway. It's also slightly raised around the corners, giving it the look that the base isn't properly attached. The crown also feels off, with coarse movement and a grinding sound of a spring whenever rotated. What surprised me was that they've even gone as far to replicate Apple's proprietary charging hardware. Not only does the included charger look like an Apple Watch charger, but you can actually use a real Apple one to charge it. My first challenge was getting the language changed to English. I thought it'd be found in settings, but I was wrong. For some odd reason, it's its own app. Once I could understand what I'm looking at, I could find the system information. No info is provided as to what this watch is running. Is it Linux? A Java-based OS? I can't tell. Excluding the missing animations for opening or closing apps, the OS experience is really smooth, with many Apple Watch-like features having been integrated into the fake. The display is only an LCD, but still gets quite bright. Included is several apps, including a few Chinese messaging apps, Instagram, Twitter, a game, and a few utility apps. This watch does connect to a phone using a third-party companion app. You'd need to install that to use some of these apps and features. I don't know the legitimacy of the app, but I certainly wouldn't advise putting any personal information into it. While this isn't necessarily a review video, I am actually impressed with what it can do given just how cheap it was. While costing slightly more than the Kogan watch I reviewed on A Current Affair in 2021, it's significantly more advanced. The Kogan smartwatch didn't even have a touchscreen. But it's not all great news. The action button barely works, and the crown often misinterprets scrolling as a button press. But if it's just the look you're going for, this watch does hold up surprisingly well. Another anomaly is that the shutdown option doesn't really turn the watch off. The screen goes black and even vibrates like something happened, but it's fake. The second you connect the charger, it's back on the lock screen. In fact, I got the battery flat screen to show up when it was supposedly powered off. What I do want to explore is the internals. What makes this watch tick? I'll remove the bands and begin attempting to open it up. Leaving it to heat on my heat plate didn't really work as the back of the device isn't flat, but I'll try and open it anyway. Just don't forget to remove the screws first. Just kidding, they're only drawn on. Using my Jimmy tool and a few plastic picks, I can work the adhesive loose. But even with the back panel loose, I still couldn't remove it as there's several cables attaching to it for the charging and several sensors. I tried to free them, but it didn't work, so it doesn't seem we're going to be able to enter the watch from this side. So it was back to the heat plate where this time I could heat the front display. Usually I'd use a suction cup to help lift a phone or tablet display, but the watch screen is just too small, so instead I'll use a curved blade. This is what I use to open the real Apple Watches. However, even after a good heat at both 80 and 120 degrees, I wasn't able to open the display. So I thought I'd continue prying at the back. As it turns out, the sensor PCB is attached using plastic pegs. The board unclips with some force from my Jimmy tool. And with that, we have our first look inside the H10 Ultra. Everything appears to be soldered in place with nothing really accessible, at least from this side. Even the real Apple Watch is hard to repair. Just take a look at this Series 3. The only really replaceable components are the display and battery. The rest is just a mess of soldered wires. What we can see inside the watch is the battery, which takes up about 40%, a speaker on the top right, and the motherboard being housed at the top. There was also a loose wire over the battery. My guess is that some kind of temperature sensing wire to monitor the battery. I thought I'd verify the fake watch is still working and charging, and it sure is. So with no further things to remove inside, I'll begin reassembling it, making sure to install the band retaining clips before I attach the back housing. Once it's pressed down into position, we're done. So this is it, the Apple Watch Ultra clone. Costing only $50 US or around 75 Australian, it's better than I expected. In fact, it's amazing just how close it really is to the original, and it's 17 times cheaper. They've almost perfectly cloned the watch itself, the box, and even the level of difficulty to repair. It's the best clone I've seen to date. However, that's not to say it's secure, private, or reliable. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and check out the Clone Tech playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for any used devices, be sure to check out my online store, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.